Matthew 14, verses 13 through 21. I'm reading to you from the Amplified Bible, so you will hear it sounding a little bit different, a little bit more advanced, more detailed than what you might have in your Bible. So Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. When Jesus heard about John, he left there privately in a boat and went to a secluded place. But when the crowds heard of this, they followed him on foot from the cities. When he went ashore, he saw a large crowd and felt profound compassion for them, and he healed their sick. When evening came, the disciples came to him and said, this is an isolated place, and it's already late. Send the people home so that they may go to their villages and buy their own food. But Jesus said to them, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. The disciples replied, we have nothing here except 5 loaves and 2 fish. He said, bring them here to me. Bring them here to me. That's the translation I have. That's what it said, just like that. Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, the snacks, Erica, and looking up toward heaven, he blessed it. And he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. And they all ate and were satisfied. They picked up 12 full baskets of leftovers and broken pieces when they were done. There were about 5,000 men who ate, besides women and children. There are about 5,000 men who ate, besides women and children. I want us to sing a song that leads us into starting text on today. And I'm going to share the lyrics of that song with you on the screen. Okay. So the song that we're going to share on today is You Are My Strength Like No Other. Most of us already know this quick worship song, but I want us to unmute ourselves and sing it together, because I believe that this will help to usher us into a space of worship that God and no other could bring us to. Okay.
Oh, this is my song right here.
There it is. Woo, there it is. Okay, we're going to start in the middle. Okay. You are my peace. Peace like no other. Peace like no other. Reach out to me. You are my hope. Hope like no other. Hope like no other. Reach out to me. And let's sing that one more time. You are my joy. Joy like no other. Joy like no other. Reach out to me. The last time, you are my faith. You are my faith like no other. Faith like no other. Reach out to me. Now let's go up to the top. In the fullness of your grace, in
in
the
the
power
power
of
of
your
your
name.
name.
You
You
lift
lift
me up.
me up.
Is everybody singing?
You
You
lift
lift
me
me up
up.
in the fullness and
In
the
the
fullness
fullness
of
of
your
your
grace.
grace.
In
In the
the power
power
of
of
your
your,
name, you
you
lift me
lift me up.
up. You lift
You
me
lift me
up. Now
up.
let's say you are my peace.
You
You
are
are
You are
my
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 peace.
peace.
peace. Peace is
Peace like no other. Peace
Peace
like
like
like no
no
other.
reaches to
Peace.
me.
Last time, you are my peace.
You are my peace. Peace like no other. Peace like no other. Reaches to me.
Amen. Thank you all for doing that with me on today. As I thought about the text on today and have seen how God is working and moving through our service and worship on today, even the connections that each of us have been able to make in our personal life, I think that we find that communion would definitely be important. Communion would definitely be appropriate for today when we consider what it was like for Jesus to be in the midst of these people and feeding these people in the time where they needed Jesus probably the most. In my case, I remember my family in the time where we probably needed God the most was associated with my sister and my sister's health. And anyone who knows my sister, if you've talked to me for a little bit, you know this too, that my sister has cancer. And I remember the first time we found out about my sister's cancer was December, or excuse me, not December, it was 2017. It was in July. And at the time that I was getting ready to start the first job I had had in forever, my sister had received a cancer diagnosis. And I want you all to know that when a person in your family gets cancer, they're not the only person who gets the cancer. It feels like entire families, everybody has cancer because it's like everything associated with you, everything attached to you, every conversation you have literally revolves around this diagnosis of the loss of health. And so it was a trying time for me. And I'm really grateful as I look at it in hindsight that God had put me back in the workplace in this very trying time as a bit of probably self-care and crisis management. But I imagine we're kind of all there right now. This sense of grief. We're grateful that God has been able to, in the middle of grief, give us some type of distraction. Some of us have been distracted by new hobbies that we have taken up and been learning more about ourselves and learning more about the other people around us and those whom we love, right? But the unifying thing there is that we're all grieving at this time and we're all grieving something. Now, you may not be grieving cancer, but I imagine someone here today is grieving the loss of a job, the loss of income, the loss of some forms of stability, right? And because of that, we're grieving in some sense a loss of faith. Why? Because we don't even know what faith looks like anymore. It looks like something totally different than we thought, right? I always tell people, because I have lived this life as an entrepreneur for quite some time, I say, faith is real easy when you got a paycheck. Come on, somebody. Faith is really easy when you got gainful employment. Faith is really easy when everybody in the house is healthy. But at the first pink slip you get, or the first time you quit your job, because we walking on faith, right? We hearing the testimony, somebody else quit their job, I can quit my. Faith is real easy when it's just a testimony. Come on, somebody. Faith is real easy when it's from the outside looking in and you say, well, you know, Pastor D looks good as an entrepreneur. I can look good as an entrepreneur too. It's real easy when it's on this virtual call. When you only see me for 1 hour a week, you don't know what I go through. You don't know how I pray. You don't know how I go from faith to faith. These lays look real good, but you don't know what it is to be laid out on your floor, praying like you never prayed before, because faith is no longer easy when there is grief and when there is death and when there is loss. And what we need to know that right before Jesus was feeding the 5,000, because if I were Aisha, Pastor D would have said, read the whole thing. Pastor D wouldn't have said, just read the little excerpt I gave you. Pastor D would say, Aisha, read the whole thing. She would say, how much? I would say the whole thing. Hashtag all of it. And if you read all of it, you would know that right before verse 13 and verse 12, I see you looking, Regina. In verse 12, John the Baptist had died. John the Baptist had been beheaded. And if you know that story, you know that John had been imprisoned for quite some time. But guess what? John had helped Jesus develop in ministry, and Jesus helped John develop in ministry. And right before the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus was tired because Jesus was grieving. How many of you are not just grieving, but you're tired? If we were in the church right now, I imagine you'd be raising your hand. I'm tired. Skip all of this Honolulu, Aloha, Hawaii, all this here. I'm tired. You hear me? Y'all are like, skip all the faith, skip all the favor, all the overflow, all the blessings. I hear you, Pastor Z, but I'm tired. You're sick of hearing about the pandemic. The pandemic is leaving. Then you're like, oh, but the pandemic decided to come back. It was first going this way. Now the pandemic is going. It's like, well, what are we doing? And then it's like, Jesus, what you doing out there? Now I thought you was working it all out. And then, you know, then the prophets come in and they say, oh yeah, Jesus don't work it out. And then, you know, people coughing all over again. They're coughing a lot all over again. People dying all over again. They got the variations of the variations all over again. What are we doing? We don't always know what we're doing, but we do know that we're tired. Amen. We're tired. And so just like Jesus, sometimes we want to go in isolation. You call me the pastor, but I didn't know about this here. You called me to quit my job, my care, but I didn't know about this here. You called me to leave who I was with, several of you, but I didn't know about this here, Jesus. You called me to stay put, and I didn't want to, Regina. But I didn't know about this here. You called me to minister for someone else, and people are losing their families and their friends, and people are changing their lives, Erica. But you say, I didn't know about this here. And so, you know what we want to do? We want to do like Jesus did, like Simone Biles did. You know what? Don't even worry about it. Give me a break. I'll be right back. I will be right. Just give me 50 feet. What they say, 6 feet? I'm like, give me 50 feet. But 6 ain't enough. I need 50. Come on, you got to unmute yourself, Regina, so I can hear you. Come on now. Y'all got to work with me on the day. I'm standing up for you. Y'all got to give me some feedback. So listen, I can relate to Jesus when Jesus said, I just lost who they said was his cousin. And you know, we Black people, everybody is our cousin. So one loss for you is a loss for all of us. He just lost his cousin, just lost his friend. And he said, God, I need a minute. How many of you feel like that when you say, you know what, God, I want to do what you asked me to do, but I need a minute. Come on, somebody. Y'all ain't working with me on today. Let me change. Tori, are you working with me on today? Tori, where are you there? Are y'all hearing me on today? You say, you know what, Jesus, I got you, but just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. And Jesus did that. And y'all feel like Jesus didn't know what it was to be human. Jesus said, I'll be back. I got you. Matter of fact, Jesus said, I'm going to go where the people can't go. I'm going to go on the water. And you know what the people did? No problem. The people following Jesus. Foot to foot, they following Jesus. He said, I'm going to go out in the ocean. The people said, okay, got it. Y'all get the stuff. We coming. And when people just go wherever Jesus is going, here come the people. Why? Because that's the call on this life. Hey, y'all don't want to hear me though. That's the call on your life, Regina. I don't know how is it, God, that every time I try to get away from him, you bring him right back, Jesus. Every time I said, okay, well, I'm gonna quit my job, and so now I get to manage my time. And Jesus said, okay, great, that's my time though. Here come some people. Right? Some of us can't take risks, can't keep a job. You want to be an entrepreneur? No problem. Here goes some mentees. Here go some headaches. Come on, Aisha. Right? And you say, you know what? I'm not going to be in this relationship anymore. God said, no problem. I want you to work on your family relationships. Right? And that's all of it. It's the same things that we grieve are the same things that God used as the most blessed gift and say, here go ministry. I don't care where you at. Right? Here's an opportunity. I don't care if they call you just a housewife, Erica. You got a bigger ministry than some of them who are out here in this world. Come on, somebody. How we would pick and choose who we think God calls us worthy. How we pick and choose who God said, here go a word of God. I'm going to ask you to bear it. Erica, he said, you perfect for it. Here you go. And the rest of us born and raised, been dipped in it all our life and still won't speak a word. Because that is what God will do. God will take our brokenness. God will take our grief. God will take your I'll do it later and say, okay, no problem right now. God will take your, oh, wait a minute, and say, oh, but I thought you was waiting on God. God would take your, oh, I need a break. And he say, oh, I thought you said use me though. God would take your, okay, not over here. He said, okay, over there. But y'all not hearing me though. God would take your, oh, I got my healing and say, great, you ready? Come on, you got all the energy now. You got it all out. Now let me put something in you. That's what he'll say. God will say, oh, I took your daddy. Oh, I borrowed your auntie too. No problem. You got a grief ministry now. But y'all don't want to hear me today. God will take that same stuff where you say, I need a break. And he said, no problem. I'm breaking you so that I can use you. I'm making you weak so that you can know my strength. I'm giving you not enough so you can know I am enough. Come on, somebody. Oh, that's good for me today. I don't know about nobody else, but it's good for me. God would say, you need a firm foundation. Okay, I am the foundation. Huh? You need stability. I am stability. You need a way made. I am the way. Huh? And God would take all the stuff that we think, oh, God, that's not enough. Oh, my sister got the cancer. And when my sister was diagnosed with cancer, my aunt was diagnosed with cancer 2 months before that. And when my aunt was diagnosed with cancer, my mother had lost 2 aunts to cancer a month before that. And on the same day, God blessed me with a job so that I could have something to do. I was sitting in the office downtown Jacksonville getting a mammogram, and they thought they found something. And as soon as that was over, I had to walk on somebody's job and be somebody because God needed me regardless of a lump, wherever a lump might have been. God said, I'm going to use that faith and I'm going to use that prayer that you prayed downtown Jacksonville, because while you were praying for you, there were some people praying who needed you. Come on, somebody. So while Jesus was trying to take care of Jesus, God said, baby, I gave you enough. Why? Because I gave you grace. And all the grace that I have given you, my grace is sufficient. My grace is enough. So even when you think you don't got it, I am all you ever need, and I got it. Every time you're weeping on your pillow, God said, I am the God who can wipe the tears away. Every time you look in your cupboard or your fridge or look in that bank account, and that bank account look dusty, dim, and dry, God said, no problem, my people will feed you. Because no problem that you could ever have is ever going to be too big for our super big God. No prayer that you could ever pray is ever going to be too much for the God who is all. And so you know what they did when the 5,000 were fed? They had some good stuff in here. It said that even in Jesus, let me say this. In Jesus' feeling, I believe, profound humanity, because it felt grief, it felt sorrow, it felt weakness. It shows me here that he still had profound compassion. How many of us get so stuck in our situation that we forget that there are bigger situations, baby, than what it is that you're going through? Because one thing I have learned about God is if you take care of God, God will take care of you. Oh, somebody. If you take care of God, God will take care of you every time. Every time. And so when you hear God's people calling you, you got to go back from on that boat that you tried to isolate yourself and you tried to be by yourself and you tried to call it anxiety. Come on, Aisha. Some of us saying we got anxiety and we're saying we got depression, but you also got God. And so God said, come here over. You out there wanting to be by yourself? Come here over, Gina. You out there don't want to talk to nobody because you're mad? Come here, Jerry. You out here don't want to do God's work because you ain't nobody before right now? Come here, Erica. You out here just want to work me and don't want nobody to work you? Come on, Aisha. I'm grabbing all y'all up. Augustine, you out here want to be grieving and don't think nobody else can understand that? Come here, I got ministry for you too. And here's what we do. This is what we do. I'm going to go back to verse 13 and I want to talk to Tori real quick. Verse 13 says, when Jesus heard about John, he left there privately. This is what we do. I'm going on the sabbatical from Facebook. I'll be back later. Honey, it said he went away privately. Go away. If you don't go away, we don't make nothing, because that ain't really private. You really wanted us to know that you was going through a thing when you went through the thing. So you told us you was going through the thing before you went and did the thing to handle the thing. And it's like, come on, I don't understand that people making announcements. Either you're going to go or you're not. Either you're going to go or you're not. Quit making all these announcements. And you do all of that, and God said, okay, come here. I can still use that. Because when you come back to that shore, you still going to have to tell what happened when you were out there. You still going to have to tell, I was grieving. Because he had profound compassion from the people, he still didn't make it about him. Some of us will go out in our brokenness and come back talking about you the whole time. All you learned was more about yourself. But what was God doing? You hear me? So it said he had profound compassion, but I'm going to bring it on home now. I want you to know that Jesus, in doing ministry in that way, the disciples were already told when they got the Grand Commission, said, don't take two smocks, don't take two pairs of sandals, take one of everything. Why? Because I got you. It didn't say book an Airbnb. It didn't say book the car. It didn't say, make sure you have some spending money when you get there. It said, I got you. And so in them having to live this life of faith, they also now had to pour this faith to somebody else. The same faith that was carrying the disciples in ministry was the same faith they then had to pour to somebody else and said, you know what? I'm teaching you how to have faith to faith to faith every day, glory to glory to glory every day, grace to grace to grace every day, favor. Because all those people taking the disciples and Jesus in, now you got to use that for somebody else. And if you trusted that I could do it for you, if you trusted that I could heal you after 30 days of needing healing, if you trusted that I would take you from breakup to makeup, if you trusted that I could use you who seems insignificant, but it's all that you need, if you trusted that you could quit your job, then trust also that you got a prayer for somebody else. You can pray for them differently than the person who is not as experienced what they're going through. Right? But sometimes we forget. And it's no problem, because when we forget, we say, they got to go home. We out here, just us now. I already having enough to, helping myself, figuring out how to pay my bills. I can't worry about nobody else. But Jesus said, feed them. And I imagine the statement was more you all than just bread. I imagine God was saying, here is some work for you to do. Feed them with faith. Feed them with the testimony. Feed them with your victories. Feed them why? Because I fed you. I fed you. And so it says, we have nothing. And y'all are telling God right now, God, I don't have anything. I don't have a degree. I don't have the education. I don't have the access. I don't have the personality. I don't even have good prayer sometimes. And God's saying, no problem. Bring it to me. But I don't have, I don't have a job. He said, no problem. Bring it to me. But I don't have anything in my savings. Okay, no problem. Bring it to me. But I don't have a place to live. Bring it to me. But I just lost my aunt. Bring it to me. But God, my faith is shaking right now because Black lives matter, but Black people are dying. God said, bring it to me. I'm starting to feel a little racist, God, right now in this intense racial situation we have. But God said, bring it to me. God, we just did a year of a pandemic and barely survived that. And it seems like these numbers are going back up. But he said, bring it to me. Why? Because after they brought it to him, he did a few things. He blessed it, which means to thank God for it. So write that down, bless it. Whatever it is that you need to bring to God, you pray a blessing over it. He blessed it and then lifted up to heaven. So thank God for it. Then I'm going to give it back to God. He blessed it. He lifted it up to heaven. And you know what it did? It multiplied. The little that he had, the nothing that he had, the insignificance that he felt, the lack of identity that was going on for us right now, all of this stuff, God said, I can use that. And many of us don't know much about miracles of multiplicity, but that's what this is. When your little becomes way more than enough. What it says, little becomes much when you place it in the master's hand. What this is causing us to do, you all, is to take our little, take our nothing, take our identity crisis and put it in the hands of the one who can bless it every single time. Amen.